Hello and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Wednesday the 25th. I hope you're having a great day. Um, I am with Rob and we are in a hotel because we are between houses. Things are sort of half packed at one place and furniture at the other place, and so we're taking a couple of days to make sure we have a clean bed and a clean bathroom and someplace to lay our weary heads at the end of the day. Today I'd like to talk about something disturbing that happened yesterday that's been happening, it seems, way too often. Um, I don't know whether you realize, but in the news for the last little while, there has been an inquiry from the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which are sort of like Canadian FBI. And in some jurisdictions in Canada, the RCMP is the policing body. So where we live in Wainwright, we don't have a Wainwright Police Department, we have RCMP. And the provincial, in Ontario and Quebec, there is a provincial policing. So Ontario is called the Ontario Provincial Police, the OPP, and in Quebec, La Sûreté, the people who keep the peace. But in Nova Scotia, the RCMP does that work. And there has been an ongoing investigation and inquiry for the last little while about a rampage that a gunman went on last year, just over a year ago, in which over 20 people were killed. And lots of questions about why people weren't warned and why he was able to go so long, why he was able to have a car dressed looking like an RCMP car, and why he had a uniform and things like that. So lots of questions and not very many answers for a lot of families who are struggling to find some kind of closure. And it seems to me maybe it's just because of that's going on. It's in my head. But I've been listening to the news and hearing about so many mass shootings in the States. And yesterday there was one in a small town in Texas, about 85 miles from San Antonio, I believe, in which the last time I listened, there were 14, I think the last I heard were 14 children were killed between grades 2 and 4, and a teacher and possibly a grandmother, I think someone said. I could be wrong, and who knows what has happened with those who were put in the hospital. I know there were children who were injured badly, and the gunman ended up dead. Don't know how. Haven't paid attention to the news yet today. But the question becomes for me, how is this possible? When Sandy Hook happened, however long ago that was, 10 years ago or something, I think, the world stood still. At least the North American world stood still. And we asked the question, how can this happen and what can be done about it? And of course, the NRA stood up and said, don't take our guns. And other people stood up and said, why do you need them? And there was lots of debate in that, and nothing changed. One thing that a lot of people don't know, I think, is I read this from a devotional by Josh Dubois, who used to write prayers and be a spiritual advisor for Barack Obama when he was president. And one thing that happened that not everybody knew about was that after Sandy Hook, President Obama went and he spoke to every one of the families at school that had a child who was killed. And he spent time alone with them and didn't tell the press. It wasn't about a photo op. It wasn't about some kind of getting, political points. It was about a man who was a leader, who was faithful as a Christian, and was trying to give some guidance and some peace and some sense of solidarity and comfort to the people who were under his care. That is the kind of leadership that we need on both sides of our border. One of the things, though, that we need is leadership, I think, in both again, on both sides of the border. But right now, particularly in the United States, I think leadership is needed to talk about and to do something about gun control. And when I say gun control, I don't mean that no one should have a gun. I don't think that that's legitimate. I think people should have the right to such things. But I also think that gun control needs to have some kind of controls within it. That not anyone can just walk into a store and purchase a weapon, or not anyone can walk into a store and purchase just any kind of weapon. I have no issue with police and our military members carrying weapons. I wouldn't want to see open carry. I wouldn't want to see my military, wandering around the streets of downtown Wainwright with a weapon. But knowing that they know how to use one and they know when to use one and how to do it properly brings me peace. Knowing that our police officers are trained and are ready and willing and able to use their firearms if necessary brings me peace. I have no issue if you have a shotgun or a rifle because you're a hunter. My husband Rob is a hunter. He has a rifle at home, locked up with all of the proper procedures. The gun, the keys in a different place. We have a gun safe in the works. I have no concerns whatsoever that we are completely safe and that he is not ever going to use it inappropriately. My question becomes, why do people need to have weapons if they're not hunters or if they're not going sport shooting like, the clay discs or target shooting just because they enjoy doing that? I have no problem with that under controlled situations where the proper training has happened and the proper intentions are there. But why do people feel the need, and why is it legal for people to buy restricted weapons that are not meant for anything but hurting another person? I just do not understand that. I don't think it's necessary. If you so believe that it is important to you to have a machine gun, that you might protect people, or for whatever reason you believe you need to have one, then join the military. I know that I don't know for sure, but in Canada we have a strong military. It's not very big, but it's a strong military, and part of the process of becoming a soldier is a training process in which they do recognize those people who have the psychological strength to deal with what it takes to carry a weapon and to use it in appropriate settings, at war, defending the country, things like that. They also have the ability, for the most part, to be able to recognize and weed out those men or women who are not in it for the right reasons, who might carry the weapon and use it for the wrong reasons. And they are summarily dismissed. They don't pass, like they can't get through the training because they're not in it for the right reasons. There's nothing wrong with that. And I know that there are probably people who are, hang out and watch my videos who believe that having weapons and maybe even open carry weapons is a totally okay thing. Please share your thoughts with me about that, because I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to change my mind if you give me valid reasons. But I cannot see the purpose for the average everyday citizen to need to have an automatic weapon. I heard something the other day. I've heard it many, many times before. I heard Beau the Fifth Collins say it himself, that he is not against guns. He's against it's not that guns kill people. People kill people. Sure, there is a significant number of people who are killed with their own weapons. A large number of them are suicides. But I want to know, the question I'm asking is, if you're not a hunter, if you don't go out to shoot deer or moose or bear or whatever it is that hunters do, if you are not taking your weapon unloaded and made safe to a target range to practice your shooting there, or to go, sport shooting with clay discs, things like that, what purpose do you have for having a weapon? What good can come of you having one? If you purchase a weapon that, like an automatic weapon, that its sole purpose is to mow down another human being, there's something existentially wrong with that. The idea that you believe that you need to carry such a weapon of destruction that isn't used for hunting. If you shot a deer with an automatic weapon, there wouldn't be anything to dress and bring home and serve to your buddies on the barbecue. There is no purpose except to hurt other human beings, in my mind, for owning an automatic weapon like that. You don't need them. We don't need to have those around. We certainly don't need to have our young people have access to them. Heard an argument from a father who lost his daughter in one of these mass shootings, talking about at minimum that we need to have better state, like even if it's not state like states, but like national, federal laws about things like restricted to the ages of 21 and older, or something like that, at least to have some kind of checks in place before someone can go and purchase something like this legally. Even that might help to weed out those people who were not in their right mind. Because I'm sorry, but anyone who thinks that they need an automatic weapon to protect them from another human being, you're either hanging out in the wrong countries or with really the wrong neighbors, or you need to have somebody talk to you. You need some help. Because if we get to the point in society, both north and south of the border, that we believe that we need an automatic weapon to save ourselves, to protect ourselves and our families, then we're living in a world, we're living in some kind of dystopia that I wouldn't want to live in myself. I'd move someplace else as fast as I could. I don't want to think that if I ran to my neighbor's house in the middle of the night because my house was on fire and pounded on the door, I might be met with automatic gunfire. Not my kind of neighbor. I do believe that some people are responsible enough to have some kinds of guns. I do not believe that the average citizen needs to even have the right to have those kinds of guns. And even if you have the right, are they willing to have the responsibility? And the people who are taking on these mass shootings, especially those ones who are younger, where are the people around them who are helping them to determine what their responsibilities are versus their rights? We cannot live in a society that cries out for their rights if they're not willing to live up to their responsibilities. So gun owners, all of you, I support your right to own a gun, but I also support your right to be responsible with it and to ensure that the people around you, your family, anyone who has access to your guns, don't have access. There are many, many, many families in Texas this day who are mourning because they sent their children or their spouse off to school for almost the last day of school, thinking summer was about to begin, and they're never coming home. They will never be able to hold their child again and tell them they love them because some strange person decided it was time to end someone else's life. No one who thinks that way should ever have the right to be able to access a gun, any kind of gun, at any time, in any way, shape, or form. So, am I pro-gun? No. Do I believe in and support the right for people in appropriate circumstances and with appropriate training and appropriate maturity to own a gun? Yes. Do I think that just because you turn a certain age and you've taken a course means that you should have a gun? No. I also think if you're going to have a gun, you should have a proper purpose, hunting or sport. But if you believe that you need some kind of a weapon because of other people, you need help. At least you need a good police services that you can trust them instead of believing you need to have your own gun to protect yourself. Or in stronger situations, you need mental help because you have been convinced that the world is against you and the only way you can survive is with an automatic weapon. It's not true. And if you're scared of where you live, come live near me. We're good neighbors. We won't hurt you with a gun, I promise. Please, please talk to your children about gun control. Talk to them about what happens if there is a shooter in their school. Talk to them about what it means if you have a gun and why you keep it locked up, because pray tell me that you do. Please teach them about how to unload if you have a gun, Teach them when it's appropriate to unload it and how to make it safe. Help them to know that weapons are never the answer. Help them to trust the police and those who own and have the weapons who are trained to use them properly. And trust that if you start to treat other people and expect other people to treat you with respect, that maybe someday we'll get to the point where people are not so adamantly, insanely yelling about their rights to own a gun, rather than recognizing their responsibility to own one responsibly. Nobody in Nova Scotia and in none of those families should have had to go through what they did last year. None of the families who lived through Sandy Hook or Columbine or Texas or Florida, any of these places where these shootings are happening, none of them should have to live through that. If we could all find a way to live together without thinking of ways to hurt each other, we would be so much better off. So please, if you want to argue with me, please feel free, but don't do it disrespectfully. Do it respectfully. Help me to see what you believe is the error of my ways, but please do so after having really listened to what I'm trying to say. And then we can have a respectful discourse back and forth. But either way, give your kids a hug. Show them that you love them. Be peaceful with one another. And be careful. Be careful. I will see you tomorrow at Church at Home with Rachel. God bless you, everyone. Be safe.